Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers, and welcome to our broadcast this evening. We certainly have a lot to talk about, but once again, I just want to share with you that don't be too concerned over the numbers you see as far as views are concerned, because 90% of them are now watching this broadcast on Rumble. So we thank you for shifting over, and we'll get you some more information a little bit later or via email on how you could view this broadcast via Rumble. There are reasons why the Trudeau government simply don't want us to air our broadcast into Canada, and we're going to give you some of those reasons this evening. I'm also going to share with you some of the facts regarding U.S. policy and Ukraine and Israel. But I'm particularly focused in on Canada because this is the country we committed ourselves to as an organization. The Canadian people are the people who we committed ourselves to early on, perhaps even 2 years ago, who had the courage and the sheer guts to stand up and to fight for their freedom and liberty within the framework of the law. And I underscore that. People of Canada have been very patient, and they have been working within the framework of the law. In my view, I've got to tell you, based on all the information we gathered over 2 years and the people we have spoken with, the Trudeau government has not worked within the law. Neither has the Biden administration here in the United States. Here in the United States, and I would say probably it's the same truth in Canada. The government, the U.S. Congress, the Department of Justice here in the United States, and perhaps the Parliament and Trudeau in Canada have weaponized their governments against the people. But here in the United States, things are changing, and they're beginning to change rapidly for the good, for the American people. And at another time, another date, I'll share that with you as we move on. But right now, what is going on between the United States and Canada? What's going on is something that we as an organization have said, and I have said over and over and over again for 2 years, that Canada is becoming a national security threat to the United States of America. Not the Canadian people. The Canadian people are freedom fighters. They love their freedom. They love their liberty. They love their individual rights. They love their country, and they happen to love the United States of America. And the United States of America loves the people of Canada. We are joined to the hip, folks, whether Trudeau or Biden or others don't like to hear that or not. We, the people of Canada and the United States of America, are joined to the hip. Now, let's talk about what's going on. As you know, we have been sharing with the American people far and wide, and now, thank God Almighty, it's beginning to take root, that the Canadian government, under Trudeau and under the Liberals, are not friends of the United States of America. And neither, by the way, are the Democrats in the United States of America friends of our country. But the fact of the matter is that when it comes to Canada, well, that's a foreign country. That's on our northern border. That is a true threat to us, and we have the proof. Now, I had to keep quiet for 2 years and take all the heat, the criticism. Well, you don't know what you're talking about. Canada is not a threat. What are you trying to do? Divide our countries, and on and on and on and on. But we knew full well that sooner or later something would happen, something would occur that would move the people in this country, and particularly our Congress. It goes without saying that the near 50,000 letters that were sent to us certainly have had impact. Believe me, folks, have had impact. And I've got to tell you, they're going to have more impact as we move forward. But what has really had impact is getting the information that we have shared over and over and over again out to not only our congressional leaders, but to the people of this country. And it is taking root, and it is working. Now, I'm going to read a few things to you. I don't like to read when I'm on the air, but I want to make sure that I don't miss anything. We, the Campaign for America, have posted on our website. It's right there. We have two websites, but this is one where our blogs, our commentaries, and our op-eds are. ThePatriotDesk.com. Take that down. You might want to get to it after the broadcast tonight. We just posted a couple of days ago, as promised, a letter that we sent to Representative Mike Kelly, United States Congress Republican from Pennsylvania. Soon, within the next 2 or 3 days, we will be posting a letter that we sent to 13 American state governors along the U.S.-Canada border. Now, why would we pick 13 governors belonging to 13 states on the U.S.-Canada border? Well, here's the reason why. In fact, I'll name them: Alaska, Washington, Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And by the way, that list is going to grow and grow and grow, because what the Canadian government is allowing to happen in their country, spilling over to our country, all 50 states in this country are going to be affected. And we'll get to that at some other time. But let's get to the immediate problem that we're facing. So now, all these governors are receiving a letter from us to do what? We got a request from them that they help us, Campaign for America, that they help us, the American people, and through extension, the good, God-fearing, God-loving patriots of Canada, that they help them address a real serious problem that is now taking root throughout the entire continent of North America. Representative Mike Kelly of the United States Congress of Pennsylvania and Ryan Zinke of Montana, they have introduced a resolution with about 24 co-sponsors, by the way, calling on the Biden administration and the Department of Homeland Security here in the United States to address what? The alarming number, not just the number, folks, alarming, that's their language, not mine, the alarming number of suspects on the terror watch list crossing into the United States, not from Mexico, but from Canada. Could you imagine that? Who would have believed that? Well, a lot of people didn't believe it, but we saw it coming. We knew it was coming. And finally, because of the prayers and the work and the great efforts of the Canadian people with their partners here in America, the United States Congress is going to wake up. Congressman Mike Kelly and his colleagues, especially him, and I believe it's Ryan Zinke, they are chairpersons of the Northern Border Security Committee at the United States Congress. So their entire focus on that committee is the northern border as it relates to U.S. national security. Now, here's what they found out. Here's what Trudeau will never talk to you about, but he's going to be talking to us soon about it, hopefully, and I'll get to him a little later. And those of you in the Canadian Parliament who are liberals who are watching, we know you watch. And those in the U.S. Congress who are liberals and Democrats who are watching, we know you watch. I want you to take this and just think about it. This is fact. According to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency, get this, 85% of all suspected terrorists encountered here in the United States crossed into the United States along the northern border. Now, this includes individuals from where? How about Egypt? How about Syria, Iran, and other countries that may be directly or indirectly involved in the war between Israel and the terror group Hamas? It's also been reported by the Customs and Borders Patrol here in the United States that in August of 2023, that's this year, folks, 55% of all illegal drug seizures by weight at U.S. borders came from where? Canada, across the northern border. Drug smuggling has increased by 596% along that border since fiscal year 2021, including a 26% increase in fentanyl. Fentanyl. Boy, when the American people hear that word fentanyl, they go crazy because that is being used by drug cartel members and organized criminals across this country to kill our young people. But here we go, coming from Canada. Well, I think at some point, folks, and by the way, these stats are going to come in more and more dramatically as we move on, but I think the time has come, and what we're doing here at Campaign for America is we're going to be pushing and pushing and pushing the United States Congress, as we said, to have formal committee hearings on what in the world is going on across our border north of our country. We believe it's important in a very formal way for the United States government to get in touch with the Canadian government and let them know that we have national security concerns over what's going on in their country, especially when there are people on the terrorist watch list who entered our country by crossing their border. Which leads me to this question, Mr. Trudeau and liberals in Canada who are in your parliament. What are you guys doing up there? What in the world are you doing? And look I'll tell you what, I'll be fair. I've got the same question of the liberals in this country and the Democrats who are letting terrorists run all over creation in this country. In fact, we even bust them to some of our cities. But you see, it's backfiring. Maybe you're not getting the news that you should be getting what's happening in this country. But all hell is breaking loose. New York City, for one. The mayor, by the way, Eric Adams, is ready to be indicted. Every blue state, every blue city. The illegal immigrants have pretty much taken control. All the people are moving out. And now the Democrats, they're begging for mercy. They want cops now. Imagine, they were leading the charge to defund the police. Now they want the cops because there's no cops around anymore. But you see, this is going to happen in every country on the face of the earth, including Canada, where you've let the criminals run loose, you let the good guys, put the good guys in fear because you've targeted the good guys and not the bad guys. So I'll tell you what, I'm serious. How is it that thousands and thousands of these people coming from the Mideast are in Canada? How did they get in there first? We know how they got in there. I'll tell you in a minute. How did they get in there and wander around and last so long and attempted to cross our border? Well, we got information from reliable sources, and I believe the committee knows about this here in Congress, that those suspected terrorists and other illegals with all the drugs and all the bad stuff involved actually flew into Canada from South America. They flew into Canada from South America, somehow got past security, somehow got past any type of vetting, wandering around Canada, waiting for the moment to come into the United States to hurt us. What do you think of that? You know what that tells me, folks? It tells me they feel safe in Canada. And I'd like Trudeau to answer that question. He's the guy running around. Hey, we got to be friendly with everybody. We got to come on in, guys. Come on in. Come on in. Canada's open to everybody. Well, I guess he made sure that dream came true. But the United States is not open to everybody. We have been for a while at the southern border. Now we're getting squeezed from the northern border. And the United States Congress, with Republican leadership, boy, I'll tell you what, this is going to go on the fast track. We're going to stay on top of this. And folks, let me share with you what's going to happen here. This whole situation regarding these suspected terrorists and drug cartel members and et cetera crossing our northern border, that's just the beginning. That's going to morph into everything we have talked about and worked on for 2 years in the United States of America to sound the alarm bell to our people here in the United States of America that there appears to be, in the strongest sense of the word, a strong, undeniable, uncompromising communist influence in Canada through the Trudeau government. They could deny it all they want. The facts are the facts. And here in America, believe me, we had been going down that road. We're not innocent of this. The Biden administration, the Obama administration, the liberals, the Democrats, going down that road. They're on their last gasp of air, folks, believe me, when it comes to the political power in this country. Across the United States, I know you haven't heard it, entire city councils have been overthrown, literally, politically, through the electoral process, always within the framework of the law. People went to vote, Democrats gone, Republicans coming in. From school boards to city councils to governorships to state assemblies to the United States Congress and soon the White House. We're getting rid of all of them. And this is just the beginning. They're on their last gasp of air. And the way that Biden is handling the situation in Israel is a disaster. I'll get to that in a minute. But the Canadian people, be proud of yourselves. Be proud you stood up. You put up with a lot. You tolerate a lot. And a lot more you're going to be tolerating. But I will say to you that as you see America evolve to the way it should be, the land of the free and the home of the brave, you're going to follow. You're going to follow, believe me. But always within the framework of the law. Always, always. Don't follow people who are looking to create violent acts. Don't follow people who are speaking crazy. We got them here in America, believe me. There are a lot of people speaking crazy stuff, but we've been able to convince the American people, do it the right way. That's why we have a Constitution. That's why we have a Declaration of Independence, and it's working. It is working. You got to remember, the left here in America, just like the left in Canada, they want violence. Believe me, folks. They want things to blow up so they can say, look at those people. They're crazy. All they do is commit acts of violence. Well, the acts of violence are now being committed by the left because they can't take it anymore. Work within the framework of the law. But getting back to this one significant point that you, the Canadian people, need to know. Remember I said about 2 years ago, the whole world is watching. Well, they have been watching, and now they're watching. They're watching significant movement in the fight for freedom and liberty. So when this situation regarding this particular topic of our northern border being crossed by these thugs, by these drug addicts, and by these terrorists, and how the American Congress will address that, and the American people will address it, we're going to work very, very hard, and we're working right now to extend this entire issue into freedom of worship in Canada, as well as the United States, freedom of speech, how the police respond in America and to Canadian people who are working within the framework of the law and doing what's right, how the DOJ and whatever the Justice Department you guys got up there in Canada, how they're being weaponized by bad people. I'll tell you who's going to go to jail, folks. Politicians. They're going to go to jail. They're going to fall. They're going to go to prison. And those of you who are watching, whether you're a liberal or Democrat in America, whether you're in the parliament in Canada, wherever you are in governing, you're going to go to jail. You're going to go to prison, believe me, because of the crimes against people in your state here in America or in your province in Canada. Now, I'm asking all the time, what is this thing? You and Lieutenant in Canada, what is this thing? It isn't a thing. It's a fight for freedom and liberty. I want my country to be safe. And in order for my country to be safe, Canada has to be safe. Yeah, but you know what? We don't hear about Mexico coming out of your mouth. You know, I mean, they're one. You know, they're part of North America. There's a difference. The difference is that the Canadian people are standing up and they're fighting for freedom and liberty, and they're praying, and they're doing everything they could, and they happen to be succeeding in many, many times. The Canadian government, forget about it. They're so corrupt down there. I feel sorry for the people down there. They don't have any choice. Maybe at one point in time, the Mexican people will do what the Canadian people are doing. But the fact of the matter is that there is a leader, if you want to call him a leader, named Trudeau in Canada, who in my view, my opinion, and I have a right to that, is a communist. That's my view, my opinion. Maybe he don't like to hear it. Maybe others don't like to hear it. And I know I get the hate mail from Canadians. That's fine. That's fine. They're going to stop us here in the United States. Biden, I don't think he's a communist. I just think he's got to go away. He's got to leave. He's got to retire. He's got to resign. I don't care what it takes. As long as he goes away in peace and he has a great life ahead. I wish no ill on anybody. But sooner or later, either the 25th Amendment of this country has to be enacted to remove him from office because of his mental state, or he has to be defeated or impeached, go on trial, and removed from office. Which leads me to this, something for the Canadian people and the American people, because we are glued together and we have a lot in common. I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm going to have our team do a little research on this. When is it that politicians are held responsible for their actions? Usually at election day, right? They either get reelected or they get thrown out. But I'm going to have some attorneys I know look into the possibility of filing criminal charges against politicians. Now, I know they're protected. I get it. All right. I get it. Doesn't mean you're prohibited from filing criminal charges against them. Anybody can file a charge against anybody in this country. Whether it goes to court, whether they accept it or not, that's another thing. But I've got some serious questions regarding people who are elected to office and who appear, at least in my view, maybe in the view of the majority of people in their countries or their states, are aiding and abetting the enemy through their lack of addressing the enemies of this country here in the United States, address them in a way that they're going to stop their attacks on us. They're going to stop their ill-gotten gain. They're going to stop hurting the people of this country. Because when laws are passed, not to benefit the people, but to benefit the bad guys, I think that's aiding and abetting. Here in the United States, we got all these maniacs running around. Look at these maniacs running around with the Palestinian flags. They have nothing to do with Palestine. They're not concerned about Palestine. They're concerned about supporting Hamas. Not a word out of their mouths about the beheadings, putting kids in ovens, chopping off heads. Not a word out of their mouths about the torture and pain and suffering that those Jews went through in Israel. Not a word. But they're out there toting around, blocking traffic, causing mayhem, on and on and on. Now, I'm going to tell you something. The police are dealing with them too softly as far as I'm concerned. But at one point in time, they're going to be dealing with other people. I saw this happen during the Vietnam War. And they'll get a message. And they'll get a message loud and clear. And that should be a signal to law enforcement and these politicians who are trying to be nice guys with kid gloves. You better do your job. Look, we've got to put a lid on a teapot in this country that's ready to explode. And I will do my part. I know people on the air who have some sense, who are not going to let their emotions run away with them, are trying to keep that lid on the pot. But if our government fails to do their first responsibility, duty, and obligation under our Constitution, and that is to protect the people from foreign and domestic enemies, well, then you've reached another level. You should be concerned about that. I am. But in the meantime, we have a responsibility. Those of us in government, out of government, on the air, over here and over there, we have a responsibility to try to lower the temperature. You want to vent, then vent, folks. Vent. You got to let it out. And I can imagine how some of you feel. But let me just say this to you. When you're watching this broadcast, and when you go home and you pray, when you write a letter, when you send an email, you're doing something. You may think you're not doing anything. Every single email we receive, we keep. I read them over and over and over again. I'll be honest with you, I try to get to all of them within a reasonable amount of time, but I get to most of them. And we're keeping them because there's the evidence. And I got news for you, folks. There's another reason why we're keeping all of the information we're getting from Canada, and now we're going to be getting some from Israel, I'm sure, but Canada in particular. At one point in time, when we're finished with 50,000 letters and emails and all that, when we're all finished with it and we've done our job and we could close this chapter in the book of freedom and liberty, I want to turn all of this over to the Canadian people. I'm sure there's an organization in Canada that can have some sort of a legacy building or an administrative building, a library, a foundation up there that would want all of this. And the reason why I want the Canadian people to have it is that there will be future generations of your people. I'm talking about your kids and your grandchildren that will be able to go to that library, that administrative building, wherever you're going to store this and display it. And they're going to find your name somewhere in there. That's what's important about history. We're not going to let this history go by without anybody remembering. So that's why I'm so involved with fighting for the American people, my own country and Canada, because we're glued together. And by the grace of God, we're glued together. So let's keep up the good work, okay? Let's keep on moving on. And, as I said in my Thanksgiving message last week, we can be thankful through the dark clouds and the problems we have in the United States and Canada and around the world. But at least here in the United States, and I know in Canada, folks, the greatest thing to be thankful for, the greatest gift from God to be thankful for is our freedom and liberty. And nobody is going to take that away. They're gifts from God. They want to challenge God? Be my guest. But before you challenge God, liberals, Democrats, enemies of freedom and liberty, you might want to read his book, the Bible. Why? You're going to find out what's going to happen to you. You're going to find out what's going to happen to you. Challenge us, fine. We can do so much. Go to the polls and vote. Do what we're doing. Make headway. But see what he's going to do to you. You don't believe it? Yeah. You better read that book. The people that didn't believe it, well, you may just be occupying a seat where they are now, in the gates of hell, because that's what this is all about. This is a fight between good and evil. Politics, yes. Military, yes. Economy, yes. But it is a spiritual war going on in our time, in our countries. We win, you lose. Don't ever forget that. Now, let's get to Israel. Now, let's get to Ukraine first. Here in the United States, Ukraine was on the, on the news every day. People in America don't even know Ukraine exists anymore. Why? Well, we've had it. The American people have had it. The United States Congress is in the process of starting to withdraw or at least limit and hopefully eliminate any more American treasure going to Ukraine. Why? I said it in the beginning, again, 2 years ago. The endless war, Vietnam, chapter 2. It's not going to end. It's not going to end. And the way it will end is when Russia and Ukraine are decided to say, hey, look, we got to end it. NATO, what a waste. What a waste of time NATO is. The United Nations, there'll come a time, I hope, at least in my lifetime, where we throw them right out of the United States. They got to go. I tell you, the United States should be in Beijing. That's where they should be, not on American soil, the United Nations, that is. So the fact of the matter is that Ukraine is in a situation now where they haven't made any great advances. I do hear and read, like everybody else does, that the Nazis over there are running wild. I mean, maybe that's a new base of operations. I don't know. But I'll tell you this. We never should have got involved in that war. That is a war in Europe. That is a war that Germany, France, and the European countries should be involved in. That is not our war. That is the European war. But no, the Democrats under Biden, we have to get involved in these wars. We have to send money, tanks, ammunition, and on and on and on. And who loses? We lose. We lose. That war's at a stalemate right now, just like Vietnam, just like Korea. Need I say any more? But Zelensky now is crying the blues. He wants more money. And he keeps on threatening, well, if we don't win this war here, American blood is going to be spilled here. Well, no, it's not. No, it's not. Don't even go there, Mr. Zelensky. People of this country are wise now. We're wise to everything that's going on with this government and you. Talk about corruption. Wait till we get to that story one day. And then we get to Israel. Israel, our greatest ally. Israel, really standing strong in the face of enemies day and night, night and day. When I was in Israel in the 90s, folks, I got to tell you, well-disciplined, well-trained people to do what? to fight a war at an instant notice. Believe me, I was all over that country. I saw things that were absolutely astonishing over how prepared they are to fight and win a war. Why? Because they're threatened by the world, let alone the countries surrounding them. They're threatened by the war, by the world. Every single leader on the face of this earth should be defending Israel. I've got to tell you, folks, Israel falls, well, there's going to be a ripple effect on planet Earth like never seen before for two reasons. Israel is standing strong, fighting to maintain stability in the Mideast. Oil, folks, it's all there. And the reason why the maniacs aren't taking control is because of the courage, the strength, and the will of Israel. We need to continue to send them everything they need. And if we get military involved, and by the way, knock out the country we should have knocked out a long time ago, and that's Iran. Frankly, I kind of think maybe we invaded the wrong country, Iraq. We should have went into Iran. But that might come. Now, their proxies are shooting at American warships. They're out of their minds. Sooner or later, they're going to pay a heavy price. They may think we're scared, well, we're not. I think we should have them pay that price sooner rather than later, but they know more than I do, so we'll leave it at that. But we should never turn our back on Israel. With regard to the anti-Semites here in America, all these protesters attacking Jews in the streets, going after their homes, trying to run them out of their neighborhoods. Every single one of those people attacking a Jew in this country at this point in time, every single one of them, in fact, anybody who attacks anybody, but I'm mentioning Jews because they're the targets right now, they should be arrested and there should be a mandatory sentence of 10 years in prison if found guilty in court. And if you don't belong here, you should be deported, out, gone, just like that. If you're a college student and you're involved in these insane marches, well, you should be thrown out of your university and your name should be put on a list. And I know people don't like what I'm about to say, but this is the way it is. Your name should be on a list so that no corporation will ever hire you. Doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, your name should be on a list so nobody hires you. Well, Lieutenant, this is shocking. Aren't you the free speech guy? Yes, I am. I believe in free speech. And I would say to them, go out, protest, don't block traffic. You have the right to free speech. Don't yell, kill the Jews. Don't put paint and blood on the doorsteps of their homes. Don't go yelling death to America, death to Israel. I believe in free speech. But you know what I also believe in? I believe in me and my fellow Americans having the right to live free and in secure neighborhoods. I believe that we have rights too. So you don't just have your right of free speech to spew your hate, which, by the way, is against the law in this country. It's biased crimes. Hate crimes are biased crimes. What we don't have are the politicians who have the guts to say what I'm saying. They're running around trying to figure out, gee, how do I do this? I have an election coming up. How do I say this? How do I say that? I've learned, folks, if you tell the truth. Look, you're looking at a guy that was elected to office 3 times, that decided to leave after my term limits were up, self-imposed, and who learned that you can get elected and you can win the war against all this evil if you're just honest. Be yourself. What's the worst that could happen to you? You get thrown out of office? So what? You don't lose the respect of the people. You don't lose your confidence. You don't lose your reputation. But I've got to tell you, far too many, and I get into that subject one night also, far too many politicians, they've compromised everything. And now we're all hurting because of them. But we're wise to them. Time to get rid of them, right? Time to just get rid of them. And we're doing that. So when it comes to Israel and it once comes to the Jews, I know a lot of Jewish people have found out our broadcast, so I've got news for you. I want you to think about this. You're not hearing on the news about the millions and millions and millions of Americans who are standing shoulder to shoulder with you. Yes, Christians all over the United States, and I'm sure in other countries, are standing shoulder to shoulder with you. You will not be abandoned. 1939 is not coming back. No way on this earth is it coming back. We've got Americans across this country. I'm sure Canada has Canadians across their country. And I could name free countries all over planet Earth who are going to be standing shoulder to shoulder with you. Right now, you see the media running all these stories about these protesters. Thousands are here, thousands there. Half these people have no idea why they're marching. No idea. And by the way, the recent marches in Washington and New York, when the media went to interview some of those idiots, you know what some of them said? Well, I'm here for climate change, or I'm here for this cause. I'm here against capitalism. There was a conglomerate, a mixture of thousands of people there for other reasons, just deciding to stroll along with the people who are supporting Hamas, who are supporting terrorism. Of course, I know people get upset when I say that. Well, you know what? We're not blind. We're not deaf. And the truth hurts. But we're going to stand with that Star of David behind me as we're standing with the maple leaf. And we're going to add more flags as we go along. Because what I've learned over the past month is that more and more and more people are tuning into this broadcast, and others, by the way, looking for facts, looking for truth, but looking for strength. Strength. You know how we get strength? The Bible says faith to faith, strength to strength. And we get it through who? We get it through who? We're not going to get our strength and faith from Washington, D.C. We're not going to get it from, the parliament there over in Ottawa. We're not going to get it from any capital on the face of this earth in every country. We're not going to get our strength from anyone on earth. We're going to get it from God Almighty. We're going to get it from Jesus Christ. And yeah, I'm one of those guys in politics who are not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm one of those guys who are willing to stand up is that I am this big. No matter how much power, no matter how much blood, no matter what God gives me, I'll always be this big. Why? Because he's in charge. And politicians, you all need to know that. You're this big. Without him, you're nobody. And you need to stand up and learn that there's more to this life. There's more to this fight than the money, than the arms, than the ammunition, and on and on and on. And there is a spiritual element to all of this. Which leads me to why we're still here. Why you, the people, are still here. I'm talking about the freedom fighters. You know why we're still here, folks? Because he's our captain. He's our general. He's our admiral. He said to never surrender. He said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. He said, fear not, for I am with you. He said words that politicians dare not utter because they could never keep that promise because most of them will run in combat. Our buddy up there, he's not going to run in combat. He's going to say, who shall I send? Who shall I send? And you said, and I said, send me. And he sent us. You should be proud in Canada, proud in America, proud in Israel, proud as a Jew, a Christian, wherever you are. Be proud that God Almighty is sending you into battle in this day, in this age, because this is our time. This is your time, and this is my time. To fight for freedom, to fight for liberty, to fight for what God has given us, to fight for what he has created, not what man has created, what he has created. Imagine being called not of a governor or a president or prime minister, but being called of God to fight for what he has created so that future generations of his people will be able to enjoy the fruits of freedom and liberty, the gifts he's given us. What a joy to know that, and what a comfort. Yeah, you're going to go through a wilderness period, many wilderness periods. I go through a lot of them, folks. And I think about, how did this happen? I'm in this darn wilderness again. I'm in this valley. I don't get it. I pray, I have faith, I go to church, I read the Bible, on and on and on. I spend a lot of time alone with God. And yet I run into these problems and these difficulties. Well, the answer to that question is read your Bible. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Deborah, Esther, Rachel. Need I mention more of them? Paul and Peter, Jesus Christ himself, all of them. King David, for goodness sakes, all of them went through tremendous amount of pain and suffering and wilderness periods while they were here on earth doing what? Doing what? Answering the call of God to do what they were called to do by God Almighty in the station in life that he gave them. Are you a plumber? Well, he's going to use you. Teacher, lawyer, doctor? Are you an individual who is cleaning all the buildings that other people go into? That's one of the most important jobs in the world. I could go on and on and on, no matter what station in life you're at. Disabled, blind? Guess what? In the eyes of God, you're close to his heart. He'll use you, and he's called you. So no matter where you are, what you're doing, or who you are, he's going to use you. And he's going to use you and not put a price on it. All he's doing is saying, who shall I send? And he's waiting. Hey, anybody down there? Who shall I send? Story in the Bible about that. A whole bunch of people started running away. Hey, who shall I send? And out of that wilderness, and that's the wilderness I'm talking about that you and I end up in many times, because usually that's when he calls. Who shall I send? And finally he hears this. Send me. Send me. From mom, send me. From dad, send me. Aunt, uncle, send me. From the kid, send me. From you, send me. And then he's going to send you with every piece of equipment that you need to fight the good fight of faith. That's why we win and they lose. Thanks for joining me this evening. I'm going to try to get on more often. Frankly, I miss doing this. We've been so busy and running here and there. We're getting close to Christmas, so certainly I'll be on 1 or 2 times before that. But folks, if you go again to this website, thepatriotdesk.com, you're going to see a section that says commentaries, op-ed, information, something like that. You push that button, you're going to go to a section on that website where we got a load of letters and information. We're very transparent here at Campaign for America. Very transparent. You're going to see everything we're doing. We want you to know what we're doing step by step because you're part of it. And one more thing. I know things are tough. People are finding it hard to buy food, to pay bills, to do this and do that. Do yourself a favor. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Look up to the heavens and just say, Lord, help me through these tough times. And he will. He'll help you, folks. Maybe the manna won't come from heaven like it did in Old Testament days, but something's going to come. Peace. Peace is important. Peace of mind, heart, soul, and spirit. But he's going to come through for you. You're still here. He's not going to let you down. So don't let these dark days dampen these days. Don't let the dark days block the light of the blessings of God upon your life that he's given you already. So take that deep breath. All right? Take the deep breath, and he'll give back to you. He will. All he wants you to do is give him some time, meaning take some time. Take some time for him. It doesn't cost you a dime. Take some time. Hang out with the guy for a while. Have that conversation with him. And you know what? You'd be surprised. Believe me, you'd be surprised. All right, folks, so that's it. We'll see you, all right? We'll see you shortly in a week or so. ThePatriotDesk.com, important. Where all of the things we're doing is in that website. And listen, email me when you want to. Go to the website. We have contact information form. Send it. I try to get back to you. Hey, do me a favor, too. Put your phone numbers in there if you want. I've been calling people. You should hear them. They're shocked when they answer the phone. In fact, a few people hung up on me, didn't believe it was me. Yeah, I do take time to call people. So we're going to do that, all right? I kind of feel this way when I can. I call him. He answers the phone all the time. Think about that one. So I got to really use that method of working with people. Be accessible, but be sincere. All right, folks, that's it. God bless you all. Take care and see you soon. And where is it? Where'd it go, folks? We don't forget this. Let freedom ring. God bless you all. See you real soon. I'm Lieutenant Stephen Rogers.